But as you get really far out of alignment, you get into the red zone, which is like basically, I can guarantee you from the research and all other 7 billion humans that that is going to cause degeneration, early degeneration in your body, more aches, pain, stiffness, arthritis, like all this stuff we don't want. If you're really working on and optimizing your body alignment, at least you can get yourself into the yellow zone, if not the outer edge of the green zone, drastically decreasing the amount of degeneration and damage that's placed on your body with the way your body functions.
So I meet Robbie at this big event that we're at in Vegas, and I'm watching him and his absolutely gorgeous wife walk with perfection. His shoulders are back, his posture is perfect, her posture is perfect. And I'm looking at him, I go, I see you walking like that. How do you do that? Because anytime I think about holding my shoulders back and having proper posture, I always end up slumping over. And I said, you can see this one shoulder, Robbie. You can see it's falling forward. I have scoliosis. I have an S curve. I had surgery for it when I was little. My spine is fused. It's always going to be curved. Is there any hope for me whatsoever? And we get into this deep conversation about posture and your muscles and the right way to exercise and how we're exercising and not activating certain muscles and how that can actually age us quicker. And that's the last thing. You all know this. I don't want to age quickly. I want to age like Benjamin Button. I'm working to age in reverse. So I said, oh my gosh, we need to talk more about this because this is huge. My ladies, they're perimenopausal, menopausal. We're starting to lose muscle. We're starting to get injured left and right every time we work out. And I guarantee you, many of us have lost that beautiful form that we had in our 20s when we were working out. So I am bringing you Robbie Stahl, the fitness doctor, because his 27 years in kinesiology and studies, experience, working one on one with people, working in groups. It blew me away. So, y'all need to hear this because what we do to our bodies and with our bodies and how we hold our bodies, how we breathe, how we exercise makes a huge difference in how we're going to age. So, Robbie, thank you for jumping on today.
Well, Amy, thank you for having me, and I'm honored to connect, especially with your audience, and share some gold nuggets on their functionality.
So let's start with what you told me in Vegas about how all of this just connects. I'm just going to hand it over to you. You start there because you know what our conversation was.
Yeah, so you asked me like, hey, I have scoliosis, which of course is a congenital issue. It's not like you pick this up from exercising wrong. Although body, our feet, our hips, our back that can be congenital. There's a lot of things we cause too that a lot of people don't realize, especially the ladies. Men true are true. This is true too, but especially for example in the feet. Let's get there. But before we get there, you asked me, hey, what about like scoliosis? You can't really like necessarily like fix that without a surgery. And so this is the way that I explain this to you, plus everyone else and your feelings of your body misalignment.
Hmm?
So we have a green zone, let's call it. We have a green, yellow, and red zone. The green zone is like the ideal range that your body should be in within functionality and alignment, right? So like the way your shoulder should ideally position as you raise your arm over your head, or the way your knee should ideally position when you squat or lunge down. And when the ideal position, it's going to range a little bit for different people, just like your blood work, right? It's not like, oh, if you're looking at a specific blood marker, it must be 5.0 A1C. And if it's not 4.9, right? And if it's not exactly that, then it's bad. Yeah, you don't want to be too far off. You want to be really close, but no, it doesn't need to be exactly 4.9 for 100% of people. So first understand that and understand we're going to have some little bit of discrepancy between humans, but we are going to have an ideal range. And then we start to get into, oh, and by the way, in the ideal range, this means that your muscles, when they contract, are going to have the greatest capability to execute force where you want it to execute. So for example, if you're doing a squat and your knee is in the proper alignment, then you're going to, from your butt muscle and your leg muscle, keep things simple, contraction, those forces are going to execute to the ground and you're going to have the greatest amount of strength.
Mhm.
But if your knee, for example, fell inward, which is really common for a lot of females, especially,
Yep.
you would have what's called shear stress. And that means when the knee falls in, you have your hip muscle, which is controlling the femur angle, it's changing its position. So now your hip muscle is learning to function in a longer position. And then your knee joint is having shear stress. Just for simple terms,
Yeah.
friction stress placed on your knee.
Okay.
When you really want, most of our forces, mechanically speaking, should be compressive force, which is exactly what it sounds like just one structure on top of the other and they press into each other. You don't want friction. So friction pressure in our bodies because of misalignments is really what causes a lot of excessive wear and tear. And this can happen in all the joints and it happens throughout the spine. So you want green zone. When you start to get out of misalignment, you're starting to understand some of the things that can happen, and there's possible to happen in the yellow zone. But as you get really far out of alignment, you get into the red zone, which is like basically, I can guarantee you from the research and all other 7 billion humans that that is going to cause degeneration, early degeneration in your body, more aches, pain, stiffness, arthritis, like all this stuff we don't want. So even if you have something like scoliosis or you fill in the blank, if you're really working on and optimizing your body alignment, at least you can get yourself into the yellow zone, if not the outer edge of the green zone, drastically decreasing the amount of degeneration and damage that's placed on your body with the way your body functions.
Oh my goodness. This is my just even what you said right there is mind blowing. I started thinking of so many things. What I see at the gym, right? I mean, even when I'm not even looking at myself, I'm looking at other people and their horrendous form. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, girlfriend, you are going to blow your back out. You're going to blow your knees out. So just what you're telling me aligns with what I'm thinking when I look at this bad form on top of a load, like a pressure, a weight. And now you have the weight with the bad form. Oh my gosh, it totally makes sense. And even my husband, he's blown out two knees. So two torn patellar ligaments, patellar tendons, right? Totally blown. And he remembers back in the day when he was training in a weight room for football and he was doing front squats and just the knee position. And maybe you like the knees to go over toes because there's that whole knees over toes guy. But he said, dude walks into the weight room and goes, "Hey, buddy, you keep doing that 20 years from now, you're not going to have knees left." He's like, he was right because that stress over time just wears and tears. And I know a lot of my ladies right now are dealing with arthritis and multiple injuries. I've heard about hip replacements in a woman's 40s, hip replacements, knee replacements, 40s and 50s. I mean, isn't that happening a lot younger than what it used to be happening at? Or are we just kind of able to repair things now faster?
Yeah, well, we have so many more procedures that can help repair, but that's another interesting subject. So a lot of people think like, well, should I do something to like improve my body mechanics or should I like get this knee surgery? And so like a lot of people who come to us like this is where their mind's at. This is like a totally incorrect way to think and we help them reshape their thinking. But let's think about that. It's exactly like saying, "Oh, my tire on my car is wearing out because of the alignment of the vehicle.
Right.
So, because the outer edge of the tire is wearing out early, I'm going to go replace the tire." That's synonymous with getting a surgery. Well, you go get the tire replaced or you go get the surgery, you still got misalignment, you just replace the tire. So you still have body parts and structures that helped you end up there unless you were like hit by a car, right? You still have body alignment that's out, that's not functioning ideally the way it should. It's still going to lead to increased pain, stiffness, dysfunction, all kinds of stuff, especially as you age.
Right.
And so, ideally, like, look, I think we all know we should exercise. But like what, what we specialize in is anti-aging fitness. And like what exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
That means that you're going to exercise in a way that we remove all the negative stress or like excess breakdown on your body and put all of the targeted stimulus into the right areas so you can get all the regenerative effects of exercise, but not have the degenerative effects. So, and this is so prevalent, Amie.
Mhm.
87% of people who exercise get injured exercising. And even with trainer supervised exercise, they've actually shown in high intensity training, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I'll just share the data. 73.5% of people in some study groups of high intensity trainer supervised training get
Mhm.
injured at some level. So for me, that's like just complete nonsense. So it's really, and the other thing is it's not just our body, our mind, which is our body, and our body is our mind, which is we could create a whole segment on that. So we won't go too deep there, but just know that as you age, your brain's connection with your body gets weaker. For example, by the age of 50, you lose 25% of the sensory perception in your foot. We know this from actual data and research. By age 80, you lose 75% of the sensory perception in your foot. But that really happens throughout the whole body. And when you go to move and function yourself, which you need to enjoy life, what happens is you got two major components. One is your sensory perception. So it's all the inputs of sensing and feeling, and even emotions get mixed into this, and positioning of the body and pain or not, all these sensory things.
Mhm.
And that goes to your central nervous system. And then based on what you're wanting to do with your movement, a motor action comes back. Well, if you're sensing less well, then you're going to have less motor action and weaker neurological connection. So the reason why people start feeling stiff as they age is the same reason as, let me give you an example. If I give you a 10 or 20-pound weight,
Mhm.
Amie, are you going to hold that out in front of you unless I ask you to, or are you going to bring that close to you?
Brain close.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
everyone, why?
Well, because it's going to hurt after a while if I hold it out there. My arms are going to get tired.
Exactly. And so your body does that same thing. When you decrease neurological connection as you age, it goes, I'm not as strong. I don't have good connection. So I'm going to shorten muscle fiber and become guarded. So people stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch endlessly. And there's a lot of people who are going to hear this episode from today and go, that's me. And
Yeah.
because they stretch, 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 and they're like, yeah, it never really works, or it only works for a couple of days. That's because just stretching is not the problem. You really need to reconnect your mind and connection of body alignment and functionality with your tissues so your body feels safe and stable. And when your body feels stable, it will allow mobility to happen. So a lot of people, what they're thinking happens in the body is actually the end result, because they just don't have the data of understanding like how does the foundation functionality actually work of the body's mechanics.
Oh, there's so much to unpack there. I'm going to work at the end and go backwards. My yoga ladies. And when you were talking about stretch, 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 that's what I'm thinking. And I do the same thing. I try to stretch, I do yoga, I do hot yoga, but this might explain, I'm gonna let you explain this, but it might have a correlation here. When I was doing yoga like 3 days a week, I kind of got into a kick, especially the hot yoga. I was actually in more pain. I think I was overstretching and not strengthening the muscles that I need to be strengthened in order to balance out my misalignment. Does that make sense? Am I on the right track?
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll think about it like this. Like I've actually had this show up in my own life. So in my immediate family, growing up, my immediate family, I have four individuals outside of myself who all have a lot of back pain and back issues. And we all have kind of this like sway back, pelvis tip forward, excessive back arch.
Hmm.
Okay. And we're not alone. There's a lot of people that have this, or they might have the extreme opposite.
Yeah.
So I have had at times in my life, especially because I used to do bodybuilding and all kinds of other extreme stuff. When people listen to me, they're probably like, oh, he must do like just little therapeutic exercise. Like, no, not at all. That's not the case. Um, and so my back bothered me a lot. Plus, I did 20 years of full contact sports.
Hmm.
So I've gained the greatest benefit from holding my pelvis in the right position and finding a longer position in my tissues when I do strength training than doing any other stretch, because loading your body, like doing exercise, placing any kind of stress on your body and having it in the wrong position causes pain and breakdown, and your nervous system's telling you, hey, we're getting beat up. Here's your sensor letting you know we have pain. And most of us don't know what to do with it or why we're feeling that. And it's usually simply because you're not in the green zone, maybe not even in the yellow zone, you're out in the red zone. So it's a matter of figuring out where your body's at in the red zones and coming back into that aligned green zone, so you're not creating excessive stress on your body. Other places this shows up is we all sit a lot these days, right?
Yeah.
And that's an interesting subject in itself, which, by the way, we actually don't sit that crazy amount more than people think we did like 500 plus years ago. The difference is every 20-ish minutes in our previous generations, we would get up and move. Like we would constantly get up. Then we go back to sitting and we would sit differently and we wouldn't use a backrest. So we actually sat a lot. We just got up and moved. We don't just sit at a desk looking at a computer for 4 hours in a row.
Yeah.
And so these type of postures change our shoulders rolling forward, get us into different types of shortened tissues. And then when we go to exercise, it's the same body that's just sat at the desk. So now you go and put exercise stress on it and you're doing things misaligned. So now it starts to cause wear and tear and breakdown and like back issues, like knots in your upper back. For example, a lot of people think, oh, like I go to a massage therapist to get, my knots worked on in my back. Well, stop doing that, because for 99% of people, the issue is actually usually on the front side of your upper body, where you need to mobilize your anterior front side shoulder tissues and
Hmm.
chest tissues, which will make it so you stop pulling on your back tissues. So it's like all of these details from your daily ergonomics to your exercise and then retraining the understanding of that. Like that is what I call anti-aging fitness, or this fancy 50-cent term we came up called biomechanical optimization.
I feel like, does anyone else feel like they're being punched in the face with truth? Everything that you're saying is resonating. And I literally feel like I'm being punched in the face with truth because I know that this is something that I need to do. And I need to do it for me because, like you said, the age, when I think of aging, and this is going to be my next question for you, I think of those older people that you see where they're hunched over to the point where I go, don't you know that you're walking hunched over? Didn't you realize that that was happening at some point and maybe stand up straight? And I know your answer is going to be they don't know because it's such a slow progression, but that scares me. I don't want to be like that. And when you think about appearance, yes, all day long we can talk hormones and your skin and all the different things you can do to anti-age, but think about it. Picture a beautiful skinned, young looking woman, Raquel Welch, Christy Brinkley. Now hunch them over and make them shuffle a little bit. And they don't have that nice, strong, confident gait. They're going to look older than they are. It doesn't matter how their hair and face and makeup and skin is. They look old because of their body mechanics.
It's so true. It's
Yeah.
so true. Yeah. 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 It's so true.
It's so true. So, what about those people that are hunched over? Am I right that they literally don't notice the creep? Like they don't even notice it
Yeah.
happening. And one day they're like, oh shit, I'm hunched over like Hashimoto here.
Yeah. So for them, it feels correct. And that's why they don't correct themselves, is because incorrect body alignment becomes, it's actually, we first need to understand that all these things are neurological. So just like our mindset might not be where we would love for it to be, and we have different head trash and emotions and all this stuff. Like it's your neural and but you become familiar with that. So like imagine if you got another human's mind and all of a sudden you started thinking like them, you'd be like, whoa, like I'm so uncomfortable. And it might even be like, Like, if you're a business owner and all of a sudden we give you Elon Musk's mind, that might be a really painful experience,
Right.
even though like this guy creates a crazy amount of success, right? And so the same thing like with your body mechanic, that feels being hunched over feels normal to you right now. And so that's why you move like that. So like what we do is we have actually have a system where we show people, hey, here's what ideal alignment is, and we retrain their neurological awareness and understanding of positioning, and then we bring them towards that over a like progressional process to improve. While we're on the subject though, with posture, one thing gold nugget that I'll throw out for everyone right now is one of the number one mistakes with posture is a lot of people think what? Like what's one of the big things that come up with posture? Shoulders back, right?
Yes.
Shoulders back, like, shoulders back, stand up straight, shoulders back. There might be a few other things, right? But
Right.
so stand up straight, I'd agree. But shoulders back, think about that. Like I can have my shoulders back, right?
Yeah.
And I can have my head forward. My shoulders are back. My head's forward, and I can
Oh,
actually make it even like worse. But I can't stand up straight with the back top side of my head or your head going up tall towards the ceiling or sky and then have bad posture. So if you're going to think of one thing, which is really the way I like to think about it, it's like, what's the one thing or two max that if I do, I'm going to get amazing results? And so when it comes to posture, the one thing is just pull the back top side of your head up tall. That aligns your spine. So let me share with you greater detail here. So I actually have my good buddy Johnny Bones with me in my office. So if this goes more straight, and you actually don't want your spine to be straight, but most people have excessive curvature in the lower back, like rounding
yep.
or arching or
Yep.
the upper back round or the head forward. So it's one of these things like you don't actually want to be a straight line in your spine, but you kind of feel and think like that so that you go towards the correct position. Okay,
Okay.
so with that being understood,
Y'all
you're
got to
basically
watch this on YouTube, by the way, because he's showing a skeleton. You got to just see it. You got to
so
see it.
I'll verbalize so that when you hear this in a podcast format. So imagine pulling your head straight upwards, and this starts to elongate your neck, and then that starts to elongate or straighten your upper back, and then starts to elongate or straighten your lower back, towards the alignment versus having excessive curvature. Well, when that happens, your shoulder blades or scapula, which are like the thing that pretty much decide how healthy your shoulders are, or in
Mhm.
other words, if you're having shoulder issues, it's guaranteed like almost always going to have a lot to do with your shoulder blades. When your spine goes more straight, your shoulder blades naturally lie on your back where they should. If you're
Mhm.
hunched over, the scapula are going to begin to roll forward because it's all attached to the same structure. And then
Yeah.
your scapula are the only one of the only bones in the entire body that attach to soft tissue. So they don't go bone to bone, they go bone to muscle and connective tissue.
Right.
So if your back is straight and you have good alignment, the tissues they're connecting to are going to have good alignment, right? It's like the old song, your knee bones connected to your thigh bone, like right. So one big tip: pull your head back, top side of your head up tall. Number one thing you can do for your posture.
That's crazy. I just did that and it totally does make a difference as opposed to trying to hold my shoulders back. And then as soon as you forget, they go forward again. So
Exactly.
that's an amazing tip. Okay. People are going to think, well, I'll just go to my physical therapist and they'll do it. So can you break
Yeah,
that down? Because
I love
PTs
it.
don't, yeah, uh-uh.
I love it. I love it. So and we have PTs on our team, and PT, some the better PTs, the best PTs are awesome.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong with PTs or Kairos or anything else. It's depending on how you're applying, what you're applying it on. But think about this. Let's say I am in your living room with you, training you. It's going to be awesome. You're going to get great results. We're going to have a great energetic connection because that's the way I train, and I'm going to see all the details and nuances in your body. And so you're exercising, and I see that your knee, for example, or leg or hip, whatever it might be, is kind of going out of alignment. So I verbally and or physically cue and adjust you. And so I adjusted you. Did you learn something from it? Yeah. But what are the best biomechanical or body mechanics specimens in the world, like an Usain Bolt, like the fastest man in the world? Those humans getting the best body mechanics results, what do? And what they do is they get video recorded and they get their body mechanics broken down so that they can slow it down and they can see from a third person perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because all this stuff is not in your muscle tissue, it's originating in the higher centers and the motor control centers of your brain. So you need to contextually and fully understand your mechanics, where you go wrong and where you can improve, so you can retrain where your movement starts. So what we do is we actually record. That's why we're known as being the world's leader in anti-aging fitness, is because we have a system where we analyze our people on screen, break down their mechanics, and my experts give a video analysis of their mechanics and how to improve. So they end up becoming smarter than 99% of fitness trainers on their own mechanics because we're teaching them what they look like, how they function, when they improve, how to improve, and like all those details.
And that makes sense. You get to do it from the comfort of your home instead of having to schlep to the PT 3 times a week. And then, like you said, does it stick? Does it actually stick? Does it get embedded in your mind so that you have that mind body connection ongoing? Or do you just have to go to the PT for the rest of your life? I love that. I absolutely love that. And you're right. Top level athletes do exactly that. And to see yourself, oh gosh, it's actually hard to see yourself because you go, oh, I'm doing that. I'm sure you have clients all the time. Like, I had no idea, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I actually say this all the time. I say they see their analysis at first and they say, "Wow, I didn't realize I was doing that." Exactly what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the difference is, all right, I want you to share a story, one of your success stories of, I know I'm totally putting you on the spot to come up with one. This was not planned at all, but I want to hear a story of someone exactly like that. Like they were a freaking disaster in the beginning, and then you move them to XYZ. And from there, I do want to talk a little bit about protein because you do so much more than just what we're talking about here with the body mechanics. I mean, you get into full body fixing with nutrients and protein intake, and I love talking protein. So, first, start with a story for me.
Well, one of the stories that comes, I have many, but one of the ones that I would share with you is I had a gentleman that was having trouble washing his hair because of how bad his shoulder issue was, and he had a 7 millimeter, no, 7 centimeter, which is quite a big tear, through his supraspinatus into his infraspinatus, and this is basically what your two of your rotator cuff tissues. So it's through the top one into the next one down on the shoulder blade, 7 centimeters. This majorly can affect your mechanics. And he did not want to have surgery. Usually, if a tear is new, it is really intelligent. Go see an orthopedic physician because there's a narrow window that you can get that repaired before fatty deposit develops around the muscle, and it actually makes it much more difficult for the surgeon to repair. So what we did is we optimized his mechanics so much and all the other functionalities and connection points that he still had, and optimizing his mobility and his motor control and all these things, that within about max of 2 months, he was washing his hair without pain. And by the end of like the first year of working together, he was now off on his own. I haven't seen the guy for several years, but we touch base once in a while. And, I probably talked to him several months ago. And this has been like 7 years, 8 years since we worked together. And he still was like, yep, I'm still doing exactly what you taught me. And I'm still having amazing results. And I'm playing golf at a highly competitive level. And he's in his late 60s.
Wow. And no surgery. He never needed the surgery.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Well,
not
he
gonna
never
like.
got the surgery in the beginning. So,
Yeah, like full disclaimer, that doesn't like, no, Robbie did not reattach his tissue because we're doing some special exercise. But, he might be better off than other people who do have attached tissues because he's in all the other ways mechanically functioning so well, versus someone else that has attached tissues but is not mechanically functioning well.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Like it just gives me hope that I can have a day where I will be pain-free and better posture. Like if I catch myself, walking by like a window or something, I'm like, ugh, get your shoulders back, aim. Like seriously. Like I want to look at myself and see myself as having better posture and obviously being less injury prone as well and out of pain. Like you're
Yeah.
actually giving me hope that that is possible because I've kind of resigned myself, like many of my listeners, I'm sure have. Listen, this is just something we'll just have to deal with the rest of our life. It's part of aging, right? Joints just deteriorate, you get shorter, all of the things that, and I can't even believe that I believe that because it's the same things that I say to people with hormones. Like, no, you don't have to go without hormones and just you're just getting older and you're just going to get fat and you're going to be tired and you're going to lose your hair. It's all right. Your libido is going to be in the toilet. Like the very things that I tell people, no, that's not true. I'm believing over here with my body mechanics and you're breaking through that and telling me no that that's not true.
Yeah, exactly. And what you just shared is incredibly valuable. And that's actually where we start. So we're actually currently in an R&D system for we'll be the first fitness company in the world to have an entire somatosensory mind, energy, emotion, like connection with self, where a lot of these emotional and sensory perceptions originate and then into the mechanics, and then into the performance with an optimized functionality. So, yeah, the biggest takeaway there, I think, is just like you're gonna go. Everything in life is happens twice. So first in your mind, and then second in your action. So be careful what your mind's thinking about. Be careful how you're measuring your results and thinking about yourself, because that's the direction you're gonna go in.
That is so true. So very true. That was gold right there. Okay, I said I was going to ask you about protein. This is a beautiful transition in because you can't do any of this if your muscles are deteriorating because you're not feeding them properly. So I want to get your take on protein intake. What do you like? What do you don't like? Where do you tell people to be at? How important is it? All the things.
I'm not, well, first of all, I'm not a fan of those who are like, I'm going to eat one time a day and I'm going to just like fast my life away because this guy at Harvard did this research and shows that, if you eat more protein, then you're going to stimulate more mTOR, and then mTOR leads to like a slower, faster gene aging. It's like, okay, dude. And what happens when you are faced with sarcopenia, which is the age-related loss of muscle and function,
Mhm.
and all that other biological talk you just came up with doesn't even matter anymore because you're losing strength, you don't have muscle function, and muscles, which in the last decade have actually become known as another organ because they secrete substances that give cell signaling and health stimulus to all other cells in the body. So when you lose your muscle functionality, you lose a lot of the cell signaling and functionality to every cell in your body. So you want to have, and you want the best of both worlds. So like overeating and like trying to like when you don't really need it, go like far beyond like, more than a gram per pound of body weight, this type of thing with protein. I could see where we could have some detriment from that. There's also been research, like I'm good friends with Jose Antonio, who's, one of the number one protein researchers in the world. And like he's done studies on individuals that have done like 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight and without really any negative results. So I'm not so far to go that side, but I would say that the more we age, we do need more protein because we're less, our body gets stimulated to redevelop and develop tissue. That happens less easily, so you need more stimulus, and protein is a stimulus. So, especially if you're feeling like you're aging, you want to gain muscle, it's a good idea to have multiple bolus, as we would call it in science, multiple intakes of protein throughout the day. And you want to try to head up towards, my recommendation is 1 gram of protein per lean
Yep.
body weight. This is my recommendation because if you're very overweight and have a bunch of extra fat, I don't really see us counting that as part of what you need for your protein intake. So that's on the surface, but with detail, what I would share about
Yes.
protein.
No, I say the same thing. That's amazing. Now, do you happen to know? And I heard a good friend of mine who dives into research. He is such a PhD geek. She said, she was on the show and she said that women do really well with bookending protein, meaning even if, you hear all these things, don't do more than 30 grams of protein in one meal. She said, no, 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 that's not true. And even for women, when we're looking at the absorption of protein and the utilization of those amino acids in a good animal based protein source, a woman can bookend it, meaning go ahead and do a 40-gram protein shake of preferably like a beef isolate with amino acids, protein shake in the morning. And then, yeah, let's say you're crazy busy through the day, you're grabbing a yogurt, you're grabbing a beef stick, and you end the day with a big old steak. Bookending the higher doses of protein seem to work pretty well for women. Does Jose say anything about that?
I don't think we've talked about that, but yeah, actually, yes. His thing is like, hey, um, like, what do how do you think we survived? Like, we had feast and famine. If we couldn't process more than 30 grams, like none of us would be here. That's basically what he says, and he's one of the number one protein researchers in the world. He runs a
That's true.
laboratory in Florida at a university as a university professor. And so, yeah, like it depends. It depends. Like what's going on with you hormonally and what's the physical activity you just did and what is the food intake that you had in the previous several hours or previous few days. So,
Very true. Very true.
yeah.
But I love that you say 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. So that just ties in beautifully. And you do so much. I mean, you really do a full body fix with people where you're looking at more than what we talked about today. So you are going to be doing this amazing, amazing program that I'm going to jump into where I'm going to let you tell people about it because you told me and I was like, holy cow, this is incredible. We have to offer this to my community because it's a no brainer. You offer so much information and really do a full body breakdown, a full body fix.
Yeah, so we've developed a very high quality, almost like a public service of sharing a lot of these details because I'm sure you've just listened to all these things that I've shared, and it's like, well, like how am I going to actually incorporate that into my body, my mechanics? He shared a lot of stuff, and you got some gold nuggets, but there's a lot going on from toe to head that you could be applying. So like how do you start learning about that stuff? So I've developed 5 sessions that for select individuals, Dr. Amie happens to be one of them, that you can get access for free to our event. And this is not a pitch fest. This is our first 4 sessions. We go through it, the whole body. We're going foot and ankle. We're going knees, hips, pelvis, lower back, upper back, shoulders, neck throughout those first 4 sessions. We're doing a deep dive. I'm showing you how should the body ideally function.
Mhm.
I'm helping you to look at and evaluate your body specifically and see how you're doing compared to the ideal. And then I'm giving you specific exercises and understanding of your mechanics to improve towards the ideal. So basically, I go through your whole body and show you how to do that. And then the 5th session is our breakthrough strategy session where we tie it all together. You do have also an opportunity in the 5th session to become one of our personal clients, which we call VIPs. But the first 4.5 sessions is like all 100% educational, deep dive, just a major value add to your life.
That is crazy. And folks, he's not lying. Like it's not a pitch fest. I know all y'all are used to going on different classes, master classes, workshops, all of that. And you're like, all right, what are you gonna sell me? Right. But you legit, I've talked to people who have gone through this 5-day event. You get a ton of information. You guys are so generous with what you teach. And you're right, it is not a pitch fest. You will learn so much. So I'm really going to encourage all of you to do this because realistically, even as we were talking today, I never thought about it this way, but it's like what I said earlier when we talk about anti-aging, there's so much out there, biohacking, do this device, that device, red light therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, peptides, obviously my field of hormones, thyroid, all of it. But if we're not using our muscles properly, if we are breaking down, if we are getting injured, if we have surgery at a later age, you don't heal that quickly. And that can create more problems than just from the immobility from that surgery. This really should be the starting point and the cornerstone of anti aging medicine Because if we don't have this and proper body mechanics in our muscles, we have nothing.
Yeah, it's so true. And most people after surgery, they get back about 25 to 50% of what we would consider full functional capacity. That's like the normal. That's after going to post-op PT. Um, and yeah, the other thing is think about it. Your mood, we're basically metabolic organisms, right? And what is the stimulus of your metabolic organism? Movement. And as you start to age and you lose your mechanics, you start to grow your can't do list,
Yeah.
and your can do list shrinks. So you start doing less activity, less of that. I can't do that. And then your mind goes to, oh, my body mechanics. Well, you don't think about it like that, but oh, I'm not able to do this or can't do that. So you start limiting yourself, and that's actually the thing that starts decreasing. So if you're optimizing your mechanics, guess what you get to do? All the amazing stuff that Amie teaches you. Now, Dr. Amie's magic of thyroid hormone fixing and all of your biology. Now you get to use that. Now you're going to see like super, super results from doing both.
Yes. 100%. I love it. I love it. So we're going to put the link for that event in the show notes so all my listeners can sign up for it. I will be there as well. Robbie, can you tell the listeners where else they can find you if they want to just follow you and get more of your information?
One great place to go would just be to our site, which is thefitnessdoctor.com. So thefitnessdoctor.com, all spelled out. Exactly. THE, fitness,
Yeah.
doctor. I won't spell it for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I won't spell fitness and doctor, but thefitnessdoctor.com. And you can find out, you can get in connection with us, you can schedule consultations. We have a quiz on our site, so you can gain access to all those things. You can register for the different events and programs that we have, all available there.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for today. You've just enlightened me. You've sparked my interest. I'm going to do this. I cannot wait to get better body mechanics. Oh, look, you have little hearts floating up too. We don't even plan this. Zoom just does it. So, Robbie, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge today. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you for having me here, Dr. Amie. Lots of love to you.